episode.
What's up, guys? I'm Carolina Risotto. Welcome back to another episode of No Ducks Given podcast, the podcast where we speak openly and honestly about the highs and lows in life because vulnerability is a superpower, not a weakness. Today's episode, I am recording from a remote location around the world. I am in a hotel room in a small city in Italy called Ferrara or Ferrara in English, and I haven't been alone in like 3 months of travel. I've been mostly staying in hostels or crashing on people's couches, and being alone this week in a hotel has reminded me how much I love spending time alone. And that has inspired me to record this episode in which we talk about the benefits of being alone and single. I've been single for 4 years, and even though, yes, breakups and heartbreaks are difficult, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for you to get to know yourself better. I know this sounds highly optimistic, and maybe you're listening to this and going through a hard time right now and being like, looks like it's great on the other side, but I'm going through shit and I don't relate. Well, don't worry, I've been through shit too, and we're gonna talk about that. Believe it or not, I have not always loved being alone. I actually feared it so much that if I didn't see my friends on a weekend, I would cry. I would be so upset that I would cry. So I have definitely changed a lot throughout the years, and it was a process. I actually had to force myself to spend time alone, to actually appreciate my time alone. And loving yourself is an everyday journey. It's not that every day is easy and every day I want to be alone and it's great, but it's about really appreciating yourself, getting to know yourself, because from there you have the opportunity to build so much. Every single relationship in your life improves when you learn how to be alone and how to love yourself. And when you don't depend on someone to make you happy, especially a romantic relationship, which can be so incredibly unstable. Because the truth is, if we are already unstable with ourselves and sometimes we don't even understand what we're going through, how the hell are you going to depend emotionally on another person? So let's get right to it and talk about the benefits of being alone and single. So, first things first, if you're scared of being alone, that probably means you should be. It's a hard realization to come to, but honestly, a very liberating one once you allow yourself to accept that. Being able to be alone means you can rely on yourself constantly, no matter what changes around you. If you lose your job, if your boyfriend or your girlfriend breaks up with you, if your best friend ghosts you and disappears, all things which have happened to me, by the way. And knowing that you have yourself to count on is the most comforting thing ever. Because when someone leaves your life, and you had that emotional dependency on them, when they leave, it feels like your world is over. And it's really hard to rebuild from there because you're having to rebuild from a deep moment of weakness. So it's better for you to now, with the awareness that maybe you're scared of being alone or you're scared of losing someone and being on your own, this is the perfect moment for you to start building a relationship with yourself and putting yourself in situations where you have to prioritize yourself. Now, the way that I decided to do that was at 20 years old. I am 27 now. I was living in New York and I got a job opportunity in LA. LA was not a place that I wanted to move to at the time because I was really happy in New York. I had a boyfriend, I had friends, and I started to feel like I was building a life that I was really proud of and really enjoying living. It was incredible, actually. But when I got that opportunity in LA and I felt the urge to take that job, but also realize that I was freaking panicking about being on my own, when I realized that fear taking over me and controlling my emotions and almost controlling my decisions, I was like, wait a second. I cannot be scared of anything like this in my life. So I took that fear and I decided to face it in maybe a sort of aggressive way by putting myself in a city that I did not like, I did not want to live in at the time, away from all the comfort that I had built in New York in 2 years. And I don't know, I did that. And it was very, very hard. Now, I had no idea I was this scared of being on my own until I was given the opportunity to be alone. And when that opportunity was bigger than myself, and that I knew I would regret not taking it. So I took that job in LA and I moved there by myself, fully aware that, sure, professionally I would grow and that there was so much to discover, but I knew that my personal life would kind of go to shit from that decision. And so it did. And honestly, it was much worse than I thought. I think if I knew I was going to be that miserable, I maybe wouldn't have gone at that time. Today, I still would have because I do think we have to face our fears in order to become stronger. I do think the way that I did it was quite exaggerated and I don't recommend it. Like going to a place that you don't like. It just sounds stupid to me now that I think about it. But it was the best decision I could make at the time. It's what I thought I should make. And when I made that decision to face that fear, I was almost making that decision for my future self. When I was 20, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do for a living. I knew that I wanted to work in communications, with video, with content creation, maybe with film, commercials. There was a lot that I had done at that point, but so much that I hadn't. And I was still, just trying to explore. But if there's one thing that I knew at that time, is that I wanted to learn as much as I could and as fast as I could. And I wanted to one day run my own project completely independently. Projects where I could direct, film, edit, do everything on my own. I had no idea what that project would look like or what it would be, but I had a feeling, I had a feeling that in order for me to achieve that, I could not be as scared as I was in that moment. And so I faced that fear. And today, from this hotel room, I am doing that project that I thought of when I was 20. The project that I didn't know what it was, but I knew was going to happen someday. The only reason that I'm able to be here today, recording this and talking to you guys from Italy, it's because when I was 20, I faced my fear of being alone in order to become a more free and liberated version of myself without letting these kinds of things hold me back. So even though it took me a long time to understand why I had to make that decision, now it definitely makes sense. Now, that little voice, which I didn't fully understand, but I decided to follow, was my intuition. It was my intuition telling me, go through this path. It will be painful, but it'll be beneficial. Not all the best things in life are cheerful. The best things for you sometimes are going to cause you the most pain. Us humans, we have to feel pain for a reason. It's not an emotion that we should try to run away from. Pain, fear, insecurity, like accept that feeling, feel it. It's a part of you who you are. It's a part of the human experience. And accepting who you are is a part of self-love. So if you're feeling scared of being alone right now, if you're feeling insecure, fearful, remember that if you're scared of being alone, that probably means you should be. Because you need to understand that fear, process it, and change it, transform it into something else. Don't let the fear just stay in the status of fear. That emotion is meant to be transformed into something else. And I really think we can turn fear and insecurity into power. Empower yourself through your insecurity by accepting it and slowly facing it every single day. Now, if being alone just for the sake of personal growth and self-discovery is not enough for you, remember that people are extremely unreliable. Depending on people is not an empowering move. It's not going to get you anywhere. Ultimately, if you want to be really happy and independent and live life to the fullest, I truly believe you need to learn how to not depend on other people and to feel joy just by being in your own company. Now, of course, I chose a very extreme way to learn how to be alone by putting myself in the most lonely situation possible. Does that mean you should do that? That's for you to say. I wouldn't necessarily super recommend it, but it's not that I don't recommend it. I think it was good for me. It really toughened me up. I did have some negative consequences from it. For example, I started having to deal with some anger issues and I was feeling very frustrated. I was in a toxic work environment. There were many factors that made the experience a little more complicated. But that's life, life isn't simple. Life doesn't have an instruction manual. So sometimes when you make a move, things are not going to go exactly as you expect, or they might be even worse than what you expect, which is what happened to me. But there are simpler ways that you can learn how to love yourself and to spend time alone, even if you're in a relationship. I know that I'm going to defend a lot on this episode of being single because I think being single is the best way for you to make decisions fully for yourself. But all of these things also apply if you're in a relationship, of course. But here's something that you can do. You know how you go on dates with people to get to know them? Or you grab a coffee or some dinner or go to the movies? How about you go on a date with yourself? That's a great way for you to start spending some time alone and getting to know yourself. If you were going to call the shots and go out tonight, where would you go? What would you eat? Why? What's your favorite kind of comfort food? How do you like spending your money? What are some activities you would like to do? Or if you're going to organize a date during the day, what do you like doing? Like, would you prefer going on a hike in the mountains or go on a walk by the beach or just grab a book and sit in the park, have a read while drinking some wine? What do you want to do? That's the ultimate question when it comes to learning how to being on your own. What do you like? And as you start asking yourself that question in every department of your life, not only in your personal life and in your hobbies and what you do in your free time, but also in your work, Are you someone who's looking to take on more leadership positions? Would you like to start your own company or would you like to work for someone? Would you like to work abroad in another country for a little while? Or would you like to stay where you are right now? you know, Allowing yourself to explore every single option, every single activity, and just think for yourself, what do I want? That is how you learn who you are. And that's how you also learn to enjoy your company. Because the more you learn what you like, the more you'll be able to do that. And then as you start doing activities that you enjoy, you will naturally start pleasing yourself and feeling that self love. You will learn the things that make you happy, and now you can actually do them. And that's pretty exciting. The thing about being in a relationship, at least with me, it's really hard for me not to consider the other person, what they want, their feelings. I've done an entire episode here on season one about people pleasers and how I realized this year that I have people pleasing behaviors. And when I'm in a relationship, my people pleasing behavior always leads me to prioritize what the other person wants and not what I want. And then you keep doing that in a relationship, you're going to lose yourself in it. For many years, I mean, even with my friends, when we would organize to go to a bar, I would ask them first what they want to do. What kind of bar do you want to go to? Do you want to dance or just have drinks or have a place to talk? Like, what are you looking for? I would ask every single friend, and then I would choose a bar that meets everybody's needs. And then the last question I would ask was, what do I want to do? What kind of bar do I want to go to? And oftentimes, I didn't even want to go to a bar. I was just going to a bar to please them and to spend time with them, which of course is important. Like, you have to have a balanced relationship with people. It can't always just be about what you want, but it was constantly not about what I wanted. And it's not that people were forcing that upon me, I was doing that to myself. How are you going to notice these kinds of things if you don't take yourself out of it? And if you don't start asking yourself what you actually want, and then when you start noticing that your answer is different from what you were doing for others to please others, that's when you start getting to know yourself. And as you get to know yourself, you also start attracting people like you. That's how you actually make real friends. you know? If there's one mistake that I made this year, is that I was always changing my personality, not completely my personality, but the way that I expressed myself based on who I was talking to. And this is actually something that I've said for many years. I would straight up tell people, depending on who I'm talking to, I will behave differently. Now, I don't know if that's a normal thing. For a long time, I thought it was. Right now, I don't think it is normal. I think we should be consistently the same. Of course, if you're in a business meeting, there's a certain type of language you're going to use and energy you're going to bring to the table than if you were with your friends having a private moment. But it still should be pretty consistent, you know? And I would oftentimes do things that I didn't want to just to feel accepted by people because I thought that was the way to go. But when you're constantly adapting who you are for others, you lose sense of yourself as well. That's kind of a way to disrespect yourself. It's one thing to do something that other people want every once in a while, just, to be part of the social aspect of things. And because obviously things can't always be all about you and about what you want, but when your life becomes that, then it probably means you've been people pleasing a little bit too much and losing yourself along the way. At least that's what happened to me. If you guys want to listen to the episode about being a people pleaser and how that attracts narcissists, it's quite an interesting episode. You can listen to it after this one. But ultimately, the point that I'm trying to make right now is that for you to love being by yourself and for you to get to know yourself, you need to prioritize spending time with yourself, only with yourself. Start out with like an hour per day. It can be just doing self care or whatever. But in that 1 hour, it's just you and yourself. There's nobody else. You're not talking on the phone with your friends. You're not answering to work emails. The only thing you're doing is asking yourself what you want to do for yourself during that 1 hour. And then from there, these things slowly start becoming a habit. You slowly start to voice yourself a little bit more with your friends and about what you want to eat for dinner or where you want to go. And then you start learning how to say no, which is another beautiful thing that I struggled with for a very long time. I think I'm finally getting good at it, at saying no. Saying no is hard, guys, especially as a people pleaser, because you want people to like you, because it makes you feel good about yourself. But you know what makes me feel even better? When my boundaries are not crossed. And you can do that with a beautiful, well said, respectful no. I think that's when you like really got it. Like you're really reaching another level of self confidence when you learn how to say no to the things you don't want to do. Congratulations. I'm still new to that department. And sometimes I still say yes a little too much, but I've mostly worked on that. Another actually really beautiful and simple way for you to get to know yourself is by journaling. Guys, I think I've defended journaling so many times already in my life. I think I even have a video on YouTube where I talk about the importance of journaling. It's just the best way for you to slow down your thoughts. And if you can, and if you're early in the process of self discovery, I would say journal every day. There's this technique already supported by many researchers that journaling 30 minutes a day, first thing in the day, is one of the best ways for you like unload your thoughts, calm yourself down, focus your intentions. It's really amazing. During COVID, I was journaling every day. What they recommend is 3 full pages. That would usually take me 20 to 30 minutes. And gosh, that just reduced my anxiety to so many levels. And the amount of things that I learned about myself and the insecurities that I was able to address, it was incredible because when you're thinking, like, your thoughts just go by so quickly sometimes. And then you lose sense of your negative patterns. We have negative thoughts that constantly reoccurring. And when you stop to journal, you're able to actually look at them and identify them and be like, oh, this again. Or, oh, that's what's actually bothering me and making me insecure. When you write, you're forced to slow down your thoughts and to address them. And then sometimes I've even surprised myself while journaling, just looking at something and being like, whoa, I had no idea that this kind of behavior was triggering me so much. There's just so many things that you can learn. And the only way for you to actually fully understand this is to give a chance to journaling. So if you guys want a little challenge, I challenge you to do this. Journal 3 full pages, first thing in the day, every day for 2 weeks. Let me know what realizations you guys come to on our Instagram page or in our YouTube video comments. I would love to hear what you guys learned from this experience. It is quite life-changing. It did change my life. And after about a year and a half journaling, I started therapy. And it's been 2.5 years since I've been in therapy. And therapy is like even another boost to journaling. It's like journaling back and forth with someone who's actually helping you become even more self-aware of your behavior. But baby steps, baby steps. The challenge right now is just to journal. And then if you would like to start therapy, that's another great way for you to learn more about yourself and prioritize yourself. For me, it's been life changing because I have a lot of difficulty just sitting down and taking care of myself. Like, I have a lot of difficulty doing that to the point that I still, like, I really don't know what I like doing on my free time other than photography, exploring new cities, and going to restaurants. Like, I really don't know. Oh, and playing beach volleyball because I always enjoyed that. But other than that, which are things I've known since I was a kid, if I'm alone, I don't really know what to do on my free time other than watching TV. So it's something that I still have to work on myself. So I'm definitely not the voice of wisdom here. I'm just sharing with you guys my experience. But at least I have the awareness that this is something that I need to work on. But because I have so much difficulty prioritizing myself and I am completely addicted to productivity, like I feel like I need to be productive and do something productive all the time. Otherwise, I'm worthless. Yes, it's a very sad statement, but it's true. Therapy forces me an hour a week just to take care of myself. And so sometimes when I fail to, it's cool that therapy reminds me to do it. You know, I really think that journaling should come before that. Journaling is really, really helpful. And it's not about writing about your feelings, it's about writing what's on your mind. It can be absolutely anything. It can be a to do list, it can be a fight you had with a sibling, or it can be your frustrations with your boss, or something that you're proud of that you accomplished recently. Whatever comes to your mind, just write it down. 3 full pages. Do that for 2 weeks and then let me know how you guys feel. After that, if you want to keep the habit, that's great. Good on you. If not, if you realize that it's not for you, try something else. Another way that I actually love spending time alone, which has really helped me get to know myself, is going out for walks and talking out loud. So that's like a different way from journaling, but talking also slows down your thoughts. And then you can actually hear yourself talk. So it's almost like self therapy. That's something that I used to do as well before therapy and that I still do to this day. And so I don't look like a crazy person outside. I just put some headphones on and I kind of roll with it. But that's something I actually do on a weekly basis for many, many years now, especially when I'm feeling too anxious to sit down and write. It's a good solution. Now, of course, everything sounds beautiful and good right now as I say all these things with a smile on my face, but getting to know yourself and being alone is probably one of the most uncomfortable things ever. Because throughout the process, you find out you don't like everything about yourself. You don't like how you get irritated with people easily, or that you're rude sometimes, or that you feel insecure. It's hard to look at yourself in the mirror and not like what you see. But it's so important for you to accept who you are completely, even the parts that you don't like, because you have to identify them in order to accept them, and then in order to love yourself despite your flaws. And for those of you who are single and not feeling loved and feeling unwanted, how do you expect someone to love you despite your flaws if you don't love them yourself? And if you don't understand them? I think it's so empowering for you to know what makes you weak. No one doesn't have a flaw. We all have flaws. We all have things that we're ashamed of or embarrassed to be. Sometimes we can feel embarrassed about an insecurity. For example, a very popular insecurity in my field, which I share sometimes, is about the amount of views you get. You're posting a video, you're not getting many views. Ooh, that makes me insecure. That makes me feel embarrassed. That makes me not want to post. Ooh, okay. I was able to understand all of these layers. And then another layer is, why do I feel the need for approval? Why can't I just post without considering the views? Wouldn't that be even better? Why can't I do that? And then discovering what is making you feel insecure about that. Maybe you're worried about the views because you're worried about what people are going to think, for example. They might think your work is not good enough, or you might feel like people don't care. You see how those are all external reasons for feeling insecure? It has to do with other people's perception of you. So if you change your perception of yourself and of your insecurity, you can actually find confidence from that insecurity. So now that I'm aware that I'm insecure about posting videos because I'm scared of what other people are going to think and that they're going to lose respect for my work because of the amount of views I get, now that I understand that, I can change the narrative for myself. Do I like the video that I made? Yes. Would I post it even if it was or wasn't a part of my career? Yes, I would. Am I proud of myself for making this video? Yes, I am. Did I make the best video that I could at that time? Yes, I did. Now that I've been able to ask myself these honest questions about how I feel about the video, I can look at the external validation that I was looking for, which was making me insecure, and say, you know what? None of that matters because I can't control people's perception of me, and I am actually really proud of the video that I made. So it doesn't matter how many views it gets, I'm going to post it because this is something that I want to share. And then you post the video and let it go. And if you feel insecure, you go back to yourself and you say, you know what? I shouldn't feel insecure because I like the video. I'm proud of my work. I did the best I could, and I would post it if I was or wasn't making money from it. And that takes you back to where you need to be, which is taking that insecurity and turning it into self-confidence. Because you control the narrative. You can control how you think and feel about things. It's almost a rewiring of the brain. So even though that insecurity that I have, which I still have today sometimes, even though it's something I'm not particularly proud of, it's something that I accept. It's something that I'm aware of. I'm like, yeah, sometimes I do feel insecure about posting a video because of the amount of views it might get. But, I'm going to keep posting it anyway. So that's me changing how I react to my insecurity. Before, I could let my insecurity control me and not post a video because I'm insecure of what other people will perceive. But I decide because I have confidence in what I'm doing and I like what I'm doing. That's the opinion that I have. So I'm posting my video and I'm changing the way that I feel about my insecurity one video at a time. Now, here's another example, and I'll also make it a pretty personal one to help you guys empathize a little bit. I have a very direct personality. Less today than in the past because it's something that I've been working on. Because sometimes the way that I deliver information to people comes off as rude. I do think it's important for you to adapt a little bit how you communicate with people, depending on their insecurities, the way they receive information. It's all about knowing your audience, especially as a communicator. And this is something that I try to apply with the conversations that I have with people, especially with close family members, people who you know really well, people who depending on what you say, is going to trigger an insecurity and become an explosion and a huge fight, not because of the actual thing you were talking about, but because of their insecurity. So you need to know your audience. But sometimes, yes, being a direct person, when I say something, it can come off as rude. To me, being direct just means being honest. And I do think sometimes, depending on the situation, I have to be brutally honest with people. And I give them a warning. I'm like, look, there's no other way to say this, so I'm going to be very direct. My intention is not to be rude, but this is the deal. And then if they think I'm being rude or not, well, there's not much I can do about that. Now, it is true. Sometimes I am rude, and that's a flaw that I'm aware of. But I also know that I'm honest and I'm direct. And these are qualities that I like having. When I talk to someone and they accuse me of being rude, I can evaluate in that moment what I actually think is true. So if I actually feel like I was rude with someone, I will stop, I'll analyze, and I'll be like, okay, I feel like I was rude. But if I feel like I'm just being myself and I'm honestly delivering things the best way that I can and in the most fair and authentic way that I can, then I'll evaluate the situation. I'll be like, you know what? They're just projecting. I'm not being rude. I'm being honest. I'm being myself. They just don't like what they heard, and I won't take it personally. So, getting to know your flaws is important because you can identify when they're actually in play in a conversation or in a situation. And for me, being in a conversation, being able to identify if I'm being rude or if I'm being honest is really important. Because sometimes people will take something that they know is your insecurity and they will throw it in your face because they're feeling insecure yourself. And oftentimes, when I am accused of being rude, is because I know that I made the other person insecure with my honesty. But having this awareness is so important because it doesn't matter what people accuse me of. I won't let it affect me unless it has a solid foundation, unless it actually makes sense to me. But I have an opinion if I was rude or not. And of course, I'm willing to listen and try to understand why they thought I was rude for some reason. That's really important. That's part of the self awareness process. But ultimately, I already know myself well enough to understand if I was being rude or not. Now, this is just one example in my life. There are many other factors and layers to who I am that I'm still trying to figure out, And one thing, for example, that I discovered during this trip of traveling to all the countries my ancestors are from here in Europe, which you can learn more about on my YouTube channel. Something that I noticed during this trip is that I'm an extremely curious person and that I ask very intense questions. As I've gotten to know travelers from all over the world in hostels and hotels, I noticed people's reactions to my questions. People saying things like, "Oh, wow, like that's a very deep question." Or saying, "Oh, you're just going right to it, huh?" And I was like, "Oh, am I being intrusive? Should I not be asking these questions?" So, as I noticed that people had different reactions to my curiosity, which was coming from a really genuine and truthful place, I just like getting to know people, understand their intentions, their passions, what makes them feel alive? But I guess people are not necessarily used to being asked these kinds of things all the time, especially by strangers. So, by meeting so many different people, I started noticing how maybe I stand out a little bit in that sense and how I might scare people away a little bit. And so I started reflecting. I'm like, am I being invasive? Is it inappropriate for me to be asking personal questions to people that I just met? Like, what is the limit? Because I don't want to make people uncomfortable. And this thing that I have, which is to be curious, which I thought it was a quality, maybe it's also a flaw. Maybe I'm a little too curious. So I started to ask myself about that until eventually I realized, you know what? Maybe I should just give people a disclaimer and I should ask for their permission before asking them certain questions. So I started changing, my behavior a little bit so I wouldn't be misinterpreted, because that's the last thing that I would want. And actually, that's one of the things that annoys me the most is people misunderstanding me. Oh, God. But then there's this saying, like, do you want to be happy or do you want to be understood? Like, sometimes you have to pick one. And we're not always going to be fully understood, which is a little frustrating, but it is what it is. But I started asking people, like, hey, can I ask you a more personal question? I'm just actually really curious to get to know you. But if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to answer. So I started adding these disclaimers, depending on who I'm talking to. And it's been actually very helpful to not scare everybody away all the time. But that's something that I've learned recently about myself. I think I am an above average curious person, especially when it comes to about the lives of other people. But not because I want to gossip about them, I just want to understand humans. I'm just fascinated by the human experience. And so, this project that I'm doing, traveling to so many countries, getting to know people from all over the world, is actually the perfect project for me. um, I'm just so intrigued by it. And I don't know. I'm so happy, to be honest. And I'm really happy that I put myself once again in a vulnerable position of being completely on my own, traveling through the world to get to know myself better. Ultimately, that's the goal of the project is for me to get to know myself outside of New York, outside of the workaholic environment that I was in for 8.5 years. Because there are other things to life too. There are other sides of my personality that should be explored. And that's what I'm trying to allow myself to do here. And it's been 3 months and I still feel like I'm just at the beginning. I kind of need more time, to be honest. I need more time to get to know myself. You don't really know who you are until you put yourself in situations of contrast, which means in experiences or in moments that are completely different from anything you've ever experienced. You have to challenge yourself to get to know yourself. And being alone is a way for you to do that in the most freeing way possible because you get to think of what you want to do, what you want to try, at what pace, and you get to set those boundaries. You're not deciding your boundaries based on peer pressure from your friends or based on your coworker's opinion or based on what your partner wants. You're deciding everything based on what you feel is right. Learning and understanding what you feel is so, so important. And doing that without any other external opinion around you is the most sincere way for you to understand how you feel. At least that's what I believe in. Being on your own is such an important way for you to understand your boundaries. And it's important for you to establish what these boundaries are before you get into a serious relationship with someone. And as they get crossed, spending that time alone is also a great moment for you to reflect on them. On, like, okay, why did this situation bother me? Why did saying yes to this make me uncomfortable? When you stop to journal or to spend time on your own, you can actually take a second to reflect on it and understand what bothered you. Because people won't necessarily know that they bothered you, and you might be surprised that it did. And if you have no clue why, then it's a really important reminder that you should try to find out why without putting pressure on yourself. It's a process, you know? There are things that I'm still trying to figure out right now, but it doesn't mean that I sit down and I think about it all day or I think about it every hour of the day that I have free. Not at all. I just let it come in passing and I'm aware that there's something in that situation that bothered me. And that awareness leads me eventually to a solution. But getting to know yourself, it's a process. You know, you're not going to get everything resolved so quickly, which is why it's important for you to set some time daily for you to actually get to know yourself and do things that you like. Something that I love doing by myself, which I did on my first night here, is to order some pizza, open up the computer, put on a good TV show, and eat pizza completely by myself. That simple activity brings me so much joy. So much joy. That when people call me while I'm eating and watching TV, I never pick up because it's too precious. It's my moment. You know, I'll call you back later. Uh, and that's a boundary. You know, that's a really simple boundary. And at this point, my sister even knows if she calls me during dinner, I'm like, I'm having dinner watching TV. She's like, okay, you can call me after. She knows because I know. That's just how it works. As you prioritize yourself, your needs, and respect your boundaries, you are slowly going through a process of self love. And there is that classic quote, love yourself before loving others. Now, this is something that always pissed me off because people would just say that and they wouldn't tell you how to love yourself. I just gave you so many tips on how to do that. So I don't feel as bad saying this quote, but it's absolutely true. Because when you love yourself, when you accept your flaws, when you start understanding a little bit more who you are, then you start feeling confident. You start feeling more independent. And from there, every single relationship that you have in your life becomes better because you're going into that relationship from a place of honesty and self love. And when you already love yourself, you can also give people that love too. And then, of course, if it's not a toxic relationship, they're going to give you that love back. Then it's a win win. It's really just about taking daily steps to love yourself. What happens a lot of times when you don't know yourself very well is that you change the way you love people based on how you think they want to be loved. Or you change how you love them because you want to keep them. And you know that if you change your behavior to a certain way, they're going to be, let's say, addicted to you, or hooked to you, or dependent on you. Those are toxic ways to build a relationship. And the truth is, when you do that, you're building a relationship out of your insecurity of losing someone. When you love yourself and you know yourself and you're confident in the relationship that you have with yourself, you won't fear losing anyone because you have your love, you have your support, and you know that no matter what you go through, you will have yourself to back you up the whole time. When you live with that kind of confidence, which of course it takes time for you to build, that allows you to love people the proper way, an honest way. And I really think that's how you build long term relationships. It's by being honest with yourself about who you are, what you want, and what your boundaries are. And when you present that to the other person honestly, and you give them your love the way that you want to give it, then I think that comes back in an even more beautiful and strong way. But if the person that you're loving is treating you poorly and not the way that you deserve to be treated, you will know that and you will be willing to walk away because the love you have for yourself is so much bigger than the love that you feel for the other person. Love is also something that has to be earned. You don't just give it to someone because you want to feel loved by someone and you want to give them that love too. You give it to someone who deserves it, someone who proves that they deserve to be loved by you. The truth is, we should all be in a position where we feel like we can walk away from any relationship if we feel like it's not worthy of us, our time, and that it's disrespecting us. It's important for us to have these boundaries and to know that we can count on ourselves. But when people don't take the time to get to know themselves and they don't understand their insecurities and their flaws, and they don't set boundaries for what makes them comfortable or not, they end up in toxic relationships. I've met some people who have been in relationships for so many years where they're extremely disrespected, but they don't know how to walk out because they don't know what they're going to do with themselves if they're alone. They're too scared of being alone, of being single, of not having someone to go to. But it's an addiction. We shouldn't be addicted to people. We should be addicted to living a wonderful life, to feeling energized and trying new things and knowing that every single day can be whatever we want to be because we get to choose the narrative and the life that we live. And we also get to choose the people that we do that with. And it does not have to be with someone who's toxic, with someone who makes you feel little, or with someone who's just not showing up for you the way that you want to, or even the other way around. You don't need to be in a relationship just because you feel like that person depends on you too. It is not your fault or your responsibility if someone depends on you. It is their responsibility to work on that self love. And if people try to emotionally manipulate you to stay in a relationship, saying that if you leave, they don't know what they're going to do to themselves, and start creating all of these kinds of threats, that is the worst kind of manipulation. They're doing anything to receive your love. But you've put in the work on yourself. You know yourself. You love yourself. It is not your responsibility to love someone else. They need to do that for themselves first. And then that's two whole people getting into a relationship together. I think there's a certain moment in your life, especially in your adult life, which to me is after your 20s. There's got to be a moment in time where you're single, where you're by yourself, where you really learn to love being by yourself and where you're choosing to be single. You're not single because there are no good options. You're single because you want to be single, because you want to dedicate every moment of the day to yourself and getting to know yourself. And you think your company is so great that you'd rather spend your free time with yourself than with an empty emotional relationship that is there just for show or just so you get a little bit of emotional validation. I mean, I've been single for over 4 years and I've had moments of weakness, moments where I felt like I depended on some people very, very deeply. But then I lost them, or they lost me, or both at the same time. I don't even know at this point. And then I realized I got this. Yeah, it was painful, it was uncomfortable. I woke up in the morning feeling like my world was crashing. Just, you just feel like you're waking up in a really, really bad dream. And you're constantly thinking about that person, and it sucks. But then eventually, a month goes by, and you're like, woo, we made it a month. And then 2 months, woo, 2 months. And then 3, and then 4, and then suddenly, you're like, oh damn, I don't even think about this person when I wake up anymore. And that just comes through putting in that daily self love and knowing and believing that you're going to be fine. And even if you don't believe that right now, if you really don't believe that you're going to be fine and you're freaking scared out of your ass because you got dumped or you're single and alone and you don't know what the hell you're doing with your life, remember, you're going to be just fine because you have yourself. Change your thoughts and it will change your life. Change the narrative and it will change your life. You're not a loser at home that you don't know what to do. You're a person learning who you are, embracing all of life's possibilities, and also your vulnerability along the process. The truth is, anything is possible. You can achieve anything that you want if you set your mind to it. And sometimes it is about faking it until you make it. Change your mindset to believe that something is possible and start taking the steps to make it possible. Don't limit yourself. Don't stop yourself from believing that what you really want is what you truly deserve. And when you start getting that confidence in yourself, you stop questioning it and you stop asking people for approval or for guidance because you will know that you've got this. At the end of the day, you attract who you are. And if you think you're a loser, you're going to attract other losers. If you think you're awesome, you're going to attract some awesome people. If you're poor and you're feeling really insecure about your financial situation and you have no confidence that you get out of it, you're probably only going to attract more people in the same situation. So remember that the people you surround yourself with are the people that you become and are also the people that reflect who you are. Everyone around you is a mirror. Take a look around. Are you happy with what you see? Are the people around you a reflection of the person you want to become? If the answer is no, then it might be time to get some new mirrors. Take the time to discover who you are. Sit down and journal. Spend time alone. Try something new. Do something bold. Face your fear. Tell people no. Choose yourself. Love yourself. Get out of that toxic relationship. Stop making excuses for why things are not happening. Stop depending on people. Stop pointing fingers at others because of your own insecurities. Face the truth. Face your reality. Face who you are. Once you accept who you are, your flaws, your qualities, and you learn what you like and what you don't like and your boundaries, then you can find freedom. And these are the benefits of being alone and being single. You get to do it in your own terms, in your own time. It's all about you, baby. That's the good part about it. And everyone deserves to be a little selfish. To be selfish is almost a way of self-preservation because everyone is looking out for their best interests. Yes, even the people who love you the most. Ultimately, the advice they give you, the love they give you, is based on what they think is best. So that's why you have to think for yourself first. So you know the kind of love you want to receive, the kind of people you want to attract, the kind of life you want to build. It's subjective. It's yours. It's your life. Don't let people take that away from you. And especially don't let fear determine what these things are because fear does not define who you are. You can decide who you are and you can decide the life you want to live today and right now. And today I choose to spend the day alone in this hotel room recording this video with you guys from the beautiful country of Italy. And I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. That was the episode today. Wow, we went through so many tangents and I don't know. This was quite the journey for me personally. Honestly, it's kind of nice when I record these episodes because these are reminders that I need constantly as well. There are things that I know and that I understand, but to talk about them makes me really feel them and live them, and imagine them. And it makes it all so much more real. And it reminds me of the mindset that I want to have every single day. It's not every day that I wake up feeling super positive and confident and ready to take on life and whatever. No, it's not every day. But recording something like this definitely gets me excited and gets me on track to continue building this mentality and the life that I want. So, thank you so much, you guys, for listening. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Send this episode to a friend who needs to listen to this, who needs to learn the benefits of being alone and single. Oh my God, if you have that friend that's always in a relationship, you gotta send this to them because come on guys, just stop it, okay? But this is no judgment on people who are in a relationship. If you've been in a relationship for a long time and you're happy and you can get through all this self-discovery stuff, congratulations to you. I would never be able to do it. It's just a lot, and I'm a lot. I'm a lot as a person, and I get overwhelmed by my own self and my own thoughts and how much I've changed throughout the years. So I definitely wouldn't be able to go all through this transformation that I have these past 4 years without being single, whatsoever. But at least it's good to know that I'm doing in the work now so later I can be in a healthy, loving relationship. Hopefully. Yeah, that's what we hope for. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to give us a review. That really helps for the podcast to grow. Give it 5 stars if you'd like. Send it to friends, follow, make a comment on social. We're on Instagram and on YouTube at No Ducks Given Podcast. Go check us out, subscribe. And yeah, it was a pleasure spending this time with you. I hope it was as nice for me as it was for you. I'm Carolina Risotto. This was No Ducks Given Podcast. I will see you on the next one. Quack.